All right, here we go, everybody. Thanks for joining us again for another episode of Bosses in Action. This time we've got the boss. What's up, boss?
Hey guys. Hey Tristan. What's up?
What's up, bro? Oh, Mike, right off the bat wants to know how we get FUB swag.
Yeah, we got a little good swag right into our support team. So these are the new hats. We're actually getting some printed up, some new ones because this design looks awesome, but we found it's not like super comfortable to wear. Like it like pushes your ears out. So we're getting some new ones of those. We got lots of hoodies. So yeah, just right to our support team.
I love it, bro. Well, I can't wait to actually have an event in person soon, hopefully one day soon, so you can hand these out.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, buddy, let's get started, man. I think we got people here pushing it into the group now, pushing it live. There we go. So let's go back to the beginning because you and I met, I think it was like a year or so after you created Follow Up Boss. And I'm like, what's this cool thing, dude? So you know what it was? I was with Realtor.com at the time. And I reached out to somebody that had questions on Realtor.com leads. And they said, you've got to test out this great new CRM. It's called Follow Up Boss. I'm like, Follow Up what? And so I looked it up and I was like, oh, this does look cool, dude. So I jumped on early. Tell us where the idea came from. Where were you living? Who did you talk to? How the hell did this happen?
Yeah, sure. So, when we got started, we had this sort of original idea to build a CRM for small businesses. And at the time, there were these systems like Infusionsoft, which were pretty complicated for a small business. And then there were really like enterprise things like Salesforce. So we kind of thought like the small business space was a bit underserved. So anyway, we ended up trying to like build a bit of a CRM for small business, but the problem was like we didn't have any focus, right? Like small business is very broad, like plumbers, like software companies, real estate agents. So we knew we kind of had to get focused on a specific market. So I ended up talking to a lot of people in real estate in the US. I'm from Australia, obviously, originally, and just sort of asking them like, what are the problems you guys have? Why don't you guys just use the technology you have now, like Top Producer? And yeah, people would just tell me like, oh, hey, I don't really like the system. I never log into it. And the big problem was that they were paying for leads from say like Realtor.com or Zillow or wherever else. And then they just didn't have a system that would bring it all together in one place. So that's really once I sort of found that out, I was kind of like, this sounds like they're wasting a lot of money, like buying these leads. And then they were telling me like, yeah, I don't know what happens. I don't know what my agents do. Like I have to manually forward the leads to them. And so, yeah, I just realized like, hey, we could probably do something a little bit better and maybe a lot better than what you guys have access to now. And, that's how we got started.
So how are you talking to agents in the United States? You're from Australia. How the hell did that happen?
Yes, there's a few tactics that, we sort of employed. One was just looking on like online forums for people saying like, I'm looking for a CRM, things like that. Facebook groups was actually a big part of it. So I know obviously you run the biggest real estate Facebook group right now, Lab Coat Agents, but there were smaller groups back then. Like some of the ones were like, what should I spend my money on for real estate? And there was a bunch of other ones, right?
I remember that one.
Yeah. And so people would go in there and be like, hey, what CRM should I buy? Blah, blah, blah. So anyway, I just hung out in some of those groups and I tried to contribute value and help people, even with things not related to CRM. And then after some time, I guess people in the group, got to know like, oh, this is someone, he's not just trying to sell me, like this is someone who I can trust. And I just ended up having some conversations with people through that group. There were some posts where I did be a bit more like direct, like, hey, we're thinking of building this. Would you be interested if we build a system that could automate all these things for you? And then, yeah, people would, you would eventually move those things to DMs and then move them into a phone call where, yeah, the goal would just be to learn what people need versus like sell them something, if that makes sense. So I was really much more interested in like, are we building the right thing than just like short-term revenue, if that makes sense.
That does make sense, man. So tell me what got you interested though, specifically in real estate? Because you could have gone in any verticals. You could have done cars, you could have done, tech in general, like the tech world, creating CRMs for them. What gravitated you towards real estate? Because it's a small niche here. I mean, we've only got like 2 million real estate agents.
Yeah, it's small and it's not small, right? So yeah, it's a great question. We did so I think one of the things I wanted to say is like, you want to learn from people that have done this already, right? So we did a course that was called the Software Roundtable at the time, and it was a course that taught you literally how to start a software business. Like, this is how you find an audience, this is how you find people with problems, this is how you sell them. And the guy who ran that course, Dane Maxwell, like his software business was also in real estate, so
Mm.
that contributed a fair bit. I think there's also some pretty good characteristics about the real estate market for software guys, right? Or for just people trying to sell stuff to real estate people. And I know there's a lot of people trying to do that. And I know sometimes real estate agents get frustrated by all the cold calls and all that kind of stuff, right? But okay, there's a few things. One, it's very easy to reach a real estate agent because they have to answer their phone, they have to respond to emails, right? So like generally it's very easy to find real estate agents' information online. Two, they are the decision maker in their business. So it's like if I come to you, Tristan, I'm like, hey, let's get a new CRM going or a new website or whatever. There's no other decision makers. Like, you're the decision maker. And then three, like the top real estate agents make a lot of money, which is very important if you're trying to sell something to people, right? Because you can't sell something to like people not making any money because they have no budget. So there's a few other things, but it's like there's just several of those things which make it easy to reach real estate people. And then again, like they're also, they're very profit motivated, right? They're very willing to try things to improve their business because it's compensation based. Whereas if you go to say like a dentist, they're not as willing to like try a new thing, if that makes sense. So
Yeah, that's true, man. And you know what? That's funny that you bring up a dentist, because I asked my dentist like very recently, I go, what CRM are you using? He's like,
right.
I don't have a CRM. What do you recommend? I'm like, what? Jump on Follow Up Boss at least, because it's so versatile. That's funny, man. All right. So
Sure.
what are some of the early challenges that you saw building up Follow Up Boss? And well, I'll start with that because I want to know what challenges you have now in comparison. What were the early challenges?
Yeah, I think we were just trying to learn, like I think I, looking back, we would have hired people earlier. I think we just didn't know a ton about like scaling a business or
Mm.
like, hiring people, leading people, managing people, stuff like that. And
Mhm.
so I think there were a few times where maybe like we even hired good people, but we just didn't manage them correctly. Or maybe we just, we put off hiring for too long and we just kept doing things ourselves for too long.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think just finding the right people for your team. And then I would say also, just I mentioned coaching before, like learning from someone that's done it. So we did that initial, program, and then I've had other coaches since then. But I think I probably should have invested more into coaching and just learning. Again, like this is maybe some of the stuff like a coach could have helped me with, like, hey, why don't you hire more people? Why don't you focus more on this? So I think that was we never honestly had any challenges where we're just like, oh, the company's not going to work. For the last 10 years, it's been a lot of different challenges, but a lot of things that it's just like, okay, we're going to deal with this way, and just keep moving forward. So we never really had like a company stopping challenge, if that makes sense.
Well, I think the challenge was the growth. Like, how do I continue to grow at this pace and faster? It seems like, right? So, because real estate agents have the same challenge, they think they can do it all on their own, right?
Right.
What
Oh
they don't
yeah, yeah.
realize that they burnt out, right? And
That I think is a small business challenge in general, right? So real estate agents and all kinds of small businesses, you kind of don't want to let go of control, right? Like, oh yeah, I don't want to. This person won't do it as good as me. Like, there's all these sort of fears and things that come up. But you're right; it's very similar in real estate.
dude, all right. So now fast forward to where we are now. You've been in existence for about 10 years or so, right? All right. What are some of the challenges you're seeing now? Because I feel like the real estate world that we're in both on the real estate side of it as agents, brokers, and teams, and the real estate tech. I see a transition happening this last few months, last year into this year. What are some challenges that you're facing right now? And you're like, we need to buckle down and do this.
Yeah, like for us from a company perspective, it's really like, how do we continue to become sort of experts in real estate and experts in our software and everything we're trying to solve for our customers? So we're really trying to like, I think like a challenge that happens for companies that are successful is it's easy to become complacent. So you're like, okay, like, yeah, Follow Up Boss is a pretty good CRM, and like we have pretty great customer service, and like, you know, we have all these other good things, right? But it's like, it's then super easy to become complacent, and then, you know, then everything starts falling apart kind of. So yeah, we're just trying to keep up leveling ourselves. We're trying to recruit more great people. And then I think also like as you get bigger, like we're sort of like 55 people now. And if we keep growing, you know, we'll be 100 people soon, and then, you know, more than 100. And so it's like some of the systems that worked really well when you were 20 people don't work now when you're 50, right? So I think it's the same in small real estate teams. Like, yeah, with 5 to 10 people, you can kind of wing it on most things. And that's like, well, when you have 50 people, now everything needs to be a system. It can't really be just like, you can't really wing it in the same way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, what are some of those systems that you've put in place to make it function better? Because as agents that are listening in, we can start at least looking at it in the similar fashion, right? As we've grown into like these massive, massive teams.
Yeah, so I think like one of the things you need to always be thinking about is like putting the customer first. And so like when we sort of think about systems, I'm always trying to think, well, how does this help our customer, right? Because the other way that sometimes I see us going wrong, or sometimes I think companies do, is they're kind of setting things up to be convenient for them, you know? So it's like, for example, if I'm a software company, if you hide your phone number from every single place someone could find it, it will be easier for you to do your support phone calls, because there's not going to be very many, because no one can find out how to call you. But that's not convenient for your actual customer, right? So, you know, in real estate, that's the kind of things I would be thinking about. Like, how can I make it convenient for people to contact me when they want to contact me? Now, the second thing, I guess, that I would caveat that with is, it doesn't have to be you. It needs to be your team if you've got a team, right? So starting to remove yourself is the bottleneck. So it's not like, you know, obviously my phone number is on our website. It's like, you know, our support team and our sales team. And yeah, so that's, I don't know, that's how I try and think about it. Like, what's a problem for our customer? Then how can we maybe solve that through, you know, even just some pretty, you know, simple software like Follow Up Boss. Like, do we have a phone number where people can call our team? If we don't, I mean, we've got a phone number in Follow Up Boss that can help you with that. But yeah, you just want to be thinking about like what things are inconvenient for them.
You know what I've noticed over that topic, putting the customer first, is really giving them a place to collaborate and talk, like the Facebook group you're talking about. I think we've seen that over the last few years grow more, right? So I'm glad that you're opened up to that, because I think it's important, man. It has, you know, what's different with Follow Up Boss, and I get to see everybody else too.
Sure.
But with Follow Up Boss, there's this culture that's like an unspoken thing, but it's a really good culture. Like, most people are kind in the group and in the approach that things are said. If somebody says like, oh, Follow Up Boss sucks, they do it in the nicest way. They're like, you know, Follow Up Boss could probably use this or that. And that's like, it's so different than seeing it in other groups, man. And I think that culture comes from you guys, which is really cool to see.
Well, thanks. Yeah, I think you've helped a lot with our Facebook community in particular. And I think it's great. There is a really positive vibe in there, which I think is important. And actually, it's something I had written down. It's like, I think sometimes, especially in real estate, but small business owners in general, like I do see, you know, like egos come up. And I see this where, you know, again, like as a small business owner, you can kind of look as your customers as the problem, or you can look at them as actually like your valuable customers, right?
Yeah.
And we definitely try to look at that as like, these are our valuable customers. We want to look after them. And if someone posts some negative feedback, my brain doesn't go like, oh, it's such a pain having customers and blah, blah, blah. I go like, that sounds like something we could improve. And even if maybe they didn't say it in the nicest way, it's like, let's think what's behind that. Like, because it probably has some kind of legitimate point, right? Like, so I think it's like, you've got to just think like, people giving you feedback, like the market, like your customers or potential customers, that's how you learn, right? So you've got to sort of check your ego a little bit, and yeah, just acknowledge people, and yeah, just again, like, you got to look at that as a learning opportunity versus just a pain, if that makes sense.
That is a good point. I'm going to give, I've got a question over here, but first I want to show the audience something that is a perfect example of that. I'm going to share my screen. So I'm not going to block out anybody's numbers here. So you're going to see all of my follow-up boss goodness, but I'm going to go into, let's just go into me. I think I put myself in here. There it is. Yeah, it's a fake me. All right, so you see this, everybody. This is our main screen off of a contact. So I was driving on PCH maybe like 2 years back, and I hit up Dan, PCH in Malibu. And I hit up Dan Corkill. I'm like, hey, Dan, I've got a long drive because Malibu's so long. I'm like, I got an idea, bro. I keep on right here in this section. I'm going to zoom in here. I go, this little area right here, I keep on putting the notes, but for some reason they keep on going out to the client because I forget to shift it from from note to texting. And some of my clients are getting my notes by accident, right? And I said, why don't we, is there a way for us to differentiate this, right? And he said, you know what, dude? There is. And then literally 2 weeks later, his team comes up with this different color-coded sections so I don't screw it up on my end and my clients don't get my notes as texts. So that's a perfect example of you guys actually listening, right? That was a fast turnaround, dude. I was like, wow, very impressed, bro. Very impressed. So I was already a fan, but I was like, now I'm a super fan at that point.
Well, yeah, it's great feedback. That's where the best ideas come from. Yeah, I think you've got to learn from your customers versus just try and be like, oh, like, I mean, again, a stubborn business owner could have been like, oh, it's just Tristan's problem. Like, why can't he just learn how to use the tabs properly? But now we've got like a better solution, right? Which we'd heard that from other people as well. So now we've improved the system, right? Which again, like, we're making hundreds or thousands of these improvements, per year, and it's like just keeps adding up over time. Versus, yeah, if you don't action it, then yeah, it just doesn't improve. So
yeah, all right, good. Here's a good answer, buddy. Andy Richard, what's up, Andy? He says, what other vendors or service providers complement the Follow-Up Boss platform best? Before you answer that, dude, because that's a great question, I want to know why you decided to start having Follow-Up Boss open to other companies. Like, what was that mindset like as the growth came? You're like, hey, let's have everything connect. What was that about?
Yeah, sure. So I think when we started the company, again, that was kind of the problem we're trying to solve, is like, people buying leads from like lots of different places, and we knew we had to put it all in one place. So in that sense, we always wanted to be open because we wanted anyone to be able to put their leads in our system. That makes sense. So it's also just a general software 2.0 kind of thing, like Zendesk, Salesforce, Basecamp, any kind of significant new software platform is open, right? Like, outside of real estate, this is just the norm, right? The problem was just in real estate, we just hadn't caught up. So yeah, we just looked at other companies that we liked, and we were like, they're all open. So that's why we're going to build an open company, because all the companies we like are open, right? And we also realized, pretty early on, like, we're not going to do everything. We're not going to do websites. We're not going to do marketing services. So again, it's like, we have to be open so that all those companies can integrate with us. So yeah, that was sort of the approach.
Okay, good. And then going into Andy's question, which ones do you think complement Follow-Up Boss best? Like, go all in, have back and forth communication extremely well. Which ones are those?
Yeah, so I can just tell you, like, the top 2 integrations that people use, besides like Google Apps and Office 365 and stuff like that, is Zapier. So Zapier.com. We got a lot of people that like just automating random things. yeah, talk to Jeff Moore. I know he did the Bosses in Action recently.
That guy made me look like a slacker, dude. I was like, oh my God, what the hell? Amazing.
Yeah, he's good. And then yeah, the other one's Wailopo. So I think Wailopo, the guys there had been in the space a long time. They've been involved with Tiger Leads as sort of like this all-in-one platform where they've done everything. And I think they just came at it with the opposite approach, right? Of like, hey, yeah, we're not going to build a CRM this time. We're just going to focus on digital marketing. So yeah, they've always integrated really well with us. We have a lot of customers in common with them. And then after those two, there's a lot of these new systems that you've been working on, like these embedded apps with, so like the AM cards, the agent legends, the call actions. But yeah, I would check out Zapier and Wailopo, especially if you haven't heard of either of those companies before.
Yeah, and I put up the link to the YouTube channel for Follow Up Boss, so people can take a look at the last few episodes that we've done. Jeff Moore's was really intense on that one. All right, so I know you guys have done such a great job with all different types of agents, and the cool thing is you also cater to like the top agents in the world, which is crazy to think of a CRM, one CRM specifically doing that, right? And you guys do that very well. How do you see Follow Up Boss helping the agent overall from your eyes? Because I know how I see it, but how do you see it?
Yeah, so I guess it's a bit different between like a solo agent and a team. That's something which I think is interesting to us because, with a team there becomes a lot of dynamics like accountability and lead distribution and things like that. Whereas with a single agent, it's much more about holding yourself accountable. So yeah, I mean, I think for teams, we just enable a lot of those things via our systems, like proper collaboration, lead distribution, like things like even leaving notes for each other, stuff like that. For the single agent, I think it's never too early to start really setting your business up, in sort of leverageable systems, right? So like without a CRM, essentially like you can still do business and get referrals and work them and that kind of stuff, but you're not really building a system that can make everything easier for you. So over time, you want to be building your database so that you can email everyone, so you can do things like retargeting, so that if you build a team one day, you can distribute leads to them and make it really easy. So yeah, one of the craziest stories on our platform is like Robert Slack. He started as a single agent with us, right? And now he has like 500 agents working for him, and he didn't change his CRM the entire time. So I think it's just, there are some of these fundamental things which I don't think all small business owners get taught around the need to have a database, the need to like use email marketing to do things like retargeting. And like I just know even out of our own customers, a lot of them don't do those things, and that's okay. I mean, I think it's an opportunity. It's not like everyone has to do those exact two specific things, but you do need to sort of be building systems and like building a database. Like that's just a fundamental. Any company that is of any size has a database. Like you can't just not have one, unless again, like maybe your goal is just to like do a couple of transactions, get out of the business in a couple of years. That's fine. You don't need one. But for anything else, like you got to make your life easy. You've got to try and leverage technology and just build up a database. I'd love to hear like your take on it, but.
Well, I think you simplify the process for agents, because agents have a difficult time really going through a CRM and truly understanding the power of it. I mean, a perfect example of this is you go back to 1982 when Top Producer came out, right? And they evolved over time, and then at some point they stopped evolving, and it's got so many bells and whistles that you go into it and you're like, where do I start, right? And when you look at Follow Up Boss, it's the total opposite. You look at it and you've simplified it for us both on the app and on the actual desktop version of it, right? The software. And I think that in itself, dude, the user friendliness of the system, right, is what I think is what makes it really popular. Demi, who's a friend of mine. What's up, Demi? She says, command versus Follow Up Boss for team lead distribution and easy staying in the loop as a rainmaker. Demi, I just finished up actually part of a series on this over the weekend, and I went over that. And I can tell you from personal experience from both, Follow-up boss is dramatically easier than command. And that's coming from me. I'm with Keller Williams. So it's a hands down follow-up boss. So hopefully that answered your question. Yeah, crazy, right? Top producer 1982. All right, to wrap it up, Dan, I have a question for you, just to see your take on it, because you run Follow-Up Boss. You guys are massive in the industry. What do agents need to look out for in regards to a CRM for the future? I figure if whatever you answer it with is where Follow-Up Boss is heading. So what are you looking at here?
Yeah, I think honestly, like a lot of the technology already exists. And obviously we're going to continue to make the technology better and easier to use. But I think what we need to do more, and what we're already working with you on, right, Tristan, is like some more of this training, right? So it's like, because again, Robert Slack uses Follow-Up Boss and he's doing over $1 billion a year in transactions. And then we've got a single agent who's not doing like 10 million a year, right? And that's fine. But like we want to help them get there. It's not, they don't need a different technology. Like technology is not the problem, right? So what we want to do is become better at educating our customers. Like if you're a time poor agent and if you're busy, you are, right? And like, how can we help you get there easier? And I think a lot of that is just education. It's like, again, like I'd strongly advocate anyone trying to grow their business to get a coach, right? Like, so that's what we're kind of focused on. Again, like, of course, we're going to keep improving the software, but again, we run our own business on Follow-Up Boss. Like you can run a pretty big business on this piece of software. True. And yeah.
I love that, dude. All right. So what I heard is you're going to continue to innovate on the CRM, which is cool. Thank goodness for that. And then the other part is you're going to help break down the improvements, break down the systems that people have in this through the training that you're creating. So I love that, man. I love that. So Mike says, how many leads can FUB hold? My database is about 35,000 right now. Mike, great question, Mike. Dan, that'll be the last question because it's a great answer. So shoot, how many can the database hold?
Yeah, so Robert Slack's database is close to 1 million contacts. He's the biggest. So yeah, you have plenty of room to grow, basically. There's a few people with a couple of 100,000, but yes, 35K is a great size, actually. So just keep growing it. Whatever your database size is, your goal should just be to grow it, right? So yeah, just keep building it.
That's it. I love it. Good ending to this. Yeah, Mike, holy crap. So good job. Dan, thanks for doing this, man. I wanted to always know the story. I don't think I ever asked you, man. And we talk a lot. So thanks for the time. Thanks you for tuning in. This is recorded. It'll go on the Follow-Up Boss YouTube channel. I put up the links there. Thanks so much, everybody. Thanks, Dan.
Thanks, Tristan. See ya.